Just hanging out here on our back porch, getting ready to talk with John and Suzanne Legg. I'm really looking forward to that. I haven't seen them in a while.
Yeah, we're missing we're missing so many people. Awesome couple in our church involved in education, and I know we've got some great questions to ask them. I think this is going to be a blessing to you.
They're logging on. Oh, there they are.
There they are.
Hi. Hi, guys. Can you hear us? Oh, wait, I've got to unmute. Every time I have to unmute you.
We're all becoming our own tech experts here during this.
Yeah, we're getting good. How are you guys?
Good. Did you guys have to take a shower for this?
Well, every 5 days I find now that it's a good idea to take a shower.
It's going to take us a month just to get back to normal everything.
Right?
Yes. Normal eating, normal bedtime, it's so out of sync. Like I'm sure so many people are, which is why
I can't wait to go to a restaurant and have people serve me.
We drove by our movie theater. We go to the AMC over in Oldsmar all the time, and we drove by it the other day, and we were like, "Can we just go hug it? Can we go hold it? Like, would it be weird to just press ourselves against the window?"
It's not that; it's just something normal.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
It's normal.
We're all longing for those things. I cried about baseball yesterday. I don't even like baseball.
He doesn't even like baseball.
I don't have a favorite baseball team, and I miss baseball. Right. We're going to a baseball game.
I actually want to admit, I think I might miss football. It's weird. I might miss sports a little.
Wow.
That's a big statement coming from me. Big one.
Just so everyone knows, the Thursday, the NFL draft will be virtual, so we can at least watch the NFL draft.
Oh, there you go.
Sure,
be the most watched ever NFL draft.
Hilarious.
Well, we think you guys would be great, actually, in this conversation. We're trying to promote something that we think is going to bring hope to people. And I know there's tons of content out there, but what's so great about you guys is you've been in this community for a long time and trusted, and you're loved by so many people, and you've served here for so long. It's always great to get advice from people that you know and trust they're local.
Well, first of all, let's not assume everyone knows. Let's introduce you first. We were kind of doing that as you're logging in. Tell us a little bit about what you do and where you are. What you do.
Sure. So Suzanne and I, I grew up in this area, so I've been here my whole life, which some people say was way too long with those who know me. But I've been here a life. Suzanne and I, we are been around, and we've kind of been involved with the political world and various things in the community. But about 20 years ago, we started a school called Day Spring Academy, and we were one of the first charter schools in Florida. And now we're going on 20 years, and we have about 1,000 students coming through our school. And it's kind of a thing that we do in our community. We believe in education. We believe in community. So it's kind of who we are. We're about education and helping our community.
And personally, we have 5 children.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
They're awesome. They're awesome.
And
we have 5 awesome children.
You have 2 who are going through the online school that you guys quickly had to overnight create a whole new format for teaching. I mean, a lot of our schooling is online. We know that, but for you guys to completely go to a teaching mode online, it's just been crazy. So you are coming from educator, but also parent. And so that's kind of why we really wanted to interview you to share with other families, just hope, giving some hope, giving some encouragement. So like the first question, I'm not going to keep you here long because I know you got things to do. So the first question that I kind of threw out was, how are you teaching your family to cope during this time of uncertainty? So that has nothing to do necessarily with school, but it could.
Well, yeah. Well, the first thing that we kind of do is kind of step back and try to put it in perspective. The first things that people want to rush to is they kind of go online and say, like, on Facebook and stuff, like, this is the worst thing that could ever happen, and this is and it is pretty rough, and like this is the apocalypse, if you will. And what we try to teach our kids, and we even just kind of put the messages, as it goes to Ecclesiastics, there's really nothing new under the sun. Mm-hmm. While this may be new to us, this has happened before, and I'm a history buff. And one of the things that we quickly pointed to that this happened in 1918, and
it'll happen again.
And it will happen again. Things like these do happen. And, I read some interesting articles. President Bush in 2004 was saying, hey, we better be prepared because this is coming soon. We're about due for a pandemic like this, and we better start planning. So the very first thing that we try to do is de-escalate this situation that this isn't the end. There is another side. This has happened before, and take a look at what happened, and look from lessons that has happened, and how can we look forward going forward. And that's kind of the very first fundamental thing we talk about is let's not overreact. Let's make sure we put this in proper context that we've been through this, and let's get through it together. And, bad things will happen, but we can get through it.
And talk about the hope of where we are now compared to maybe the Spanish flu way back when, and that there are ways that we can treat it and that kids can get better and that it's not affecting kids, and talk about the reality of how it personally would affect them and what would we do to help them to overcome that. It's really important to ask questions to your kids. How are you feeling? How does that make you feel? What do you think about that? And when we ask questions, they'll open up and talk a little bit more. One technique that's great is mirroring with your teenagers. It's a little harder to get them to talk. You get grunts and maybe three-word sentences, but to kind of ask them a question about what they just said, and just try and get them open up, because you'll find out things that what's going on in their brain, and it's important for them to play that out.
Yeah.
Well, and the one thing that, we do a lot of reading at our school, especially with, kind of psychologists and psychiatrists out there. One of the things that we know is that uncertainty breeds anxiety. Anxiety breeds fear, and if you don't talk it out and you don't discuss it, that uncertainty will quickly go to fear, and it will cause paralysis. It will cause emotional and psychological and literal paralysis on individuals. And the one thing that we know it's proven, it's biblical and it's proven by science, and this is especially really helpful with kids. And it goes back to the old story we called of George and the dragon, is this concept of there are dragons out there. You don't want to lie and say this virus is not deadly, but in the story of George and the dragon, you equip them to say you can slay the dragon. You're not powerless. You're not helpless. And let them know that while there are real obstacles and real fear out there, greater is he that is within you than he that is within the world, and that you have this strength to overcome. Now, God's given us wisdom, and walk them through of why are we doing certain things. Like, and it's sad to us, like, why can't we go to church on Sunday? It's not because, people are shutting down because they want to. It's because we're taking smart, wise precautions. And why are hospitals equipping themselves to treat things? When you empower people, and especially young people, or children, to know that they're greater than their obstacles, that takes that fear down, that takes that uncertainty down, that anxiety down. And little children and young people have high degrees of it. And one of the things that we've seen is sometimes they fantasize in how they would solve the coronavirus. Here's how I would solve it. I would do this. Don't shut them up and say, oh, that's dumb. Let them talk it out. What they're doing is actually empowering themselves to be greater than that fear, and encourage that dialogue, because it does give them that kind of a confidence that they can not have that anxiety.
That's the importance of fairy tales, and that's why we love fairy tales, because we can see somebody overcome a huge problem. So letting especially the littles, try and, like, what I would do is if I got sick, and they have these crazy remedies, instead of saying that would never work, let them play with that and feel like they're overcoming that. That's really important to them.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah,
that is great.
I think not allowing them to creating a narrative that gives them hope, but also I think just talking with them so they don't lay in bed and create the worst case scenario either. I mean, I think sometimes they go 0 to 10, oh no, we're all gonna whatever, and so I think just giving them a chance to, walk slowly through the steps too, like, okay, well, right now we're all okay, and just walking slowly through all
So one of the things that we would ask you guys, just to give some tips on, we're kind of a month into this, and we've done all the puzzles in our house,
a month into
right?
This. We are officially almost
the novelty's worn off, okay, and we could be looking at another month. We just don't know, and so. One of the things that we're trying to bring hope to people is, what would you suggest? What are some things that you guys would say, here are some tips or strategies or things to make it through another month when they're sick of all the things, and, and we're done. Cabin fever set in. What are some of the things that you guys could say that you're practicing that you could have all the other parents that are going to log on to this tips and tricks?
So I think there's two things that we're going to say, which kind of sound contradictory, but the first thing that is really, really important to kids, and I don't know about you guys, but we were living in the kind of Stranger Things upside down for a little while, that there's no days and there's no time, and we don't even know if we should get dressed in the morning. I think it's really, really important, and so many people would say this as well, that a schedule, writing a schedule out for your kids, doesn't matter what age, even for adults. It's really important that we look, it's Monday. What am I doing on Monday? And let there be some consistency across Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday is the weekend, and let there be a difference between that. There should be bedtimes for littler ones. That consistency is going to be really important. And then also making things that are regular in their house. So maybe you have a wall that is displaying things that you're proud of. They're not displaying things at home. They don't have a teacher who's going, this is great, I'm hanging this on the wall. So do you have a place that you can hang things up, that there's just some consistency that kind of shows that school is happening? And just make sure that there's definitely a lunchtime, there's definitely an end time. And there can be a homework time too, but that we have those times for the kids, because I don't know about all the families, but prior to this, it was kind of like, well, we'll see, we don't know, there's no closure. Now we know we have 4.5 weeks left. Let's plan them out. So the first thing is just schedule, make some normal in your house for this next 4.5 weeks. And the second thing is
change. You know, you have schedule and you have change. So, you know, like build in, build in spontaneity, build in times to do crazy fun things that are unscheduled, but schedule it. For example, you know, Chick-fil-A Thursday, you know, everyone's going to get in the car. We're going to have lunch on Chick-fil-A on Thursday. You know,
in the middle of school.
In the middle at a lunchtime or during a certain time. Or, you know, we're going to go to, you know, if we can get Smoothie Kings open, or we're going to go on a bike ride, or we're going to do some, have those built-in spontaneity moments where it's like, oh, there's some fun, because I don't know about you guys or my, you know, other people out there, but I need newness. I need something that says, hey, today's going to be a little bit different, and I have something to look forward to, and something that's changed up. It's, you know, I'm not much of a socializer, but I've never talked to so many people on my front porch 6 feet away in my entire life. So, you know, we all crave that little bit of change and newness. So build in, plan change, build in, try to come up with, and it's hard to, but come up with some ideas of what can we do that's just different and fun that we're able to do together.
And something that's great too is you could, yes, a schedule is important, but maybe a schedule for this week and then change it for next week so that there's something new. Looking at a calendar of like what holidays there are in May is really hysterical too, because there are things, there's National Laugh Day.
We got May the 4th coming up, which is Star Wars.
Yes, we know that.
That's going to be a big day for us.
Big day. I hope everyone's wearing their Leia hair, you know. Yeah. So just put those on the count, schedule them,
good idea.
But let that be some element of change as well.
So Johnny and I have this running joke. We take a walk every single night just because it's so beautiful out right now too. But have you ever seen The Truman Show? Have you ever watched it?
Yeah.
I love that movie, but it's scary because I kind of feel like we're in The Truman Show right now. And so you see the same people walking every night, or like, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Just like
staying the same distance apart. Yes.
Yeah, you feel a little bit like you're in a bubble of a world that's repeating itself every day. So the change is good. I know for my teenagers, they're kind of in a rut already. I mean, they're way in a rut, and it's a struggle to get them to do anything. So we've had to be creative. We even drove by the causeway the other day just to get out and see the beach. I mean, you can't really get out, but you know, just to see the ocean again, you know, you can drive by.
Great.
Yeah. Drive by.
Yeah.
And ice cream. We recommend ice cream.
Right.
Oh, big time.
Okay, so our last question, really, because this is something I'm sure you guys are thinking about. What are the projected changes that this at-home learning season is going to create for our future? Are you worried about it? Are you excited about it? What are we learning in this time?
Well, you know, it's funny you say that. So, you know, Johnny actually, this got me thinking this week. Johnny gave a great little proverb, ancient proverb, you know, that says, wherever you go, there you are. And so the change that I see happening with education and distance learning is it's really going to be the same thing, because wherever you are going into this crisis is going to be the same thing that you are coming out of it. Meaning that yes, there's a lot of new elements of education that are coming in, but when you strip away the buildings, when you strip away all these distractions, what's on the inside? what's on the inside of the school is going to be the same thing, you know. And if you were not an innovative school or an innovative high rigor school before this crisis, you're not going to be one during the crisis. And little secret is, when you go back, you're not going to be one either. So, you know, wherever you are, that's where you're going to be, you know. So that's the biggest thing that out there. But it allows you for a moment to step back. For us, some of the positives happen is it's allowed better collaboration. And you would think, how is there better collaboration? Well, the teachers before would have this kind of informal way of talking, which is great. Now they've purposely scheduled a half hour in the morning and 15 minutes in the afternoon every day on Zoom to talk to each other. And they basically said, we don't want that to stop. We like that. Like, how are you handling this situation? How are you handling that? And the lateral support has been great. So, you know, it's very hard to say what's going to change, because it's really going to be different from school to school. Innovative schools prior to this will be more innovative afterwards. Those that were resistant to change, resistant to rigor, they're going to be the same after as well.
And it's also something that you can apply to your family, which is good and bad. So after you strip away all the after school activities and church and everything else, you're sitting there staring at each other. So what are you left with? And so it's a really great time to refocus. And you look around and say, I know I have, do I like that crazy life that we were doing before, or do I want a version of that and make some changes? But we also have to look at education. So we're used to, and this is hard because we're used to farming out education to our kids. And now it's really been, we're looking at moms and dads and families and grandmas and grandpas to say, education has to continue. So we have to model for our children how important education is for our kids, and find ways to support and promote that and make it important in our home. And then moving that over just spiritually, you know, as well, is that, you know, God really gave us that directive long before there were public schools, right? So that was our job. And in Deuteronomy, it says, teach them to your children, talking about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road and when you lie down and when you get up. And that principle, we could just talk about that for hours, because there's so much in that. We are responsible for teaching our own children. The church is not responsible for the spirituality of our kids. We are responsible. The school is not responsible for giving our kids a great education. We are responsible. So it's really important that we're modeling that. And one of the great ways, that's what I love about this verse, is that talking to your kids, talking to them, asking them questions, including them in conversations, walking together and talking, riding in the car and talking to them. There's so much research that supports how conversation with our children really improves their academics. So there's so much in that verse right there. But to your question, what happens on the other side is really dependent upon us. So how are we handling this? What do we like, what we see, and what can we pivot and change to keep the things that we've learned about ourselves, and then things that we want to say, you know what, we don't want that crazy distraction back in our life. We're gonna change that up a little bit.
So, you know, it's interesting in you know, there's several kind of political schools of thought, you know, and you kind of hear it now kind of bubbling on the talk shows is, you know, where did children come from? Whose responsibility is it? Are children given to parents by the state to care, or are they given to parents by God, and then parents allow others, individuals, to influence their lives? And you look at different people there, you know, there's groups out there saying, well, parents really don't know what's best for their own kids. You know, that's someone else's responsibility. You know, I just go back to what the Bible says. It's the parents, you know. And so where does this leave us? I think you're going to see more parents kind of engage, like, I didn't know you were learning that. Or maybe, you know, maybe I need a more active role in your education. I'm not saying parents need to homeschool their kids or be their teacher 24/7, but there is an active engagement of who is influencing your children, and are you okay with that influence? And I think that's going to have a long-lasting impact. And I hope for the good. I hope some parents, you know, maybe just like, oh, I don't know if I want that level of influence. So let me pull some of that back in.
Yeah. we have found just with our teenagers, we are so busy that we don't work on a lot of behavioral problems like moment by moment. We have no excuse. So we have tackled some massive, in a very slow paced way. It's been awesome because it's not a rushed correction. It's a,
Conversations,
okay,
just a lot of
stating it and
conversations.
saying, here's the consequence after. And so we've had some educational moments in
We call them character building days. We had a couple this last week,
Yes.
you know, and it's nothing negative or nothing real bad. It's just like, oh, we want a different character. That's not the character we have.
Some people might have called it gardening and yard work, but we called it character building days.
Well, when you're busy, there's things that happen in your kids that you aren't realizing are the kind of the fruit that's coming from whatever they're doing, and you're like, oh, I didn't know you were that bad.
This has provided time. This has provided some time for all of us to zone in on that. It's been one of the blessings of the season. So we thank you guys so much for being a part of this. Just really appreciate and respect what you guys do in our community. And I think this is going to bless a lot of people. We're excited for findinghope.com and what this is doing for that. And so thank you guys for being a part of this today.
Yeah.
Thanks for including us.
Thanks.
Maybe we'll see you out getting ice cream.
Oh, yeah. Love y'all. Take care.